Hello everyone, and welcome to my reaction of the brand new Doctor Who story, 73 Yards, yet again written by Russell T Davies, who appears to be writing the vast majority of this series. But anyway, let's get on to the story. So what did I like about it? Well, to begin, honestly, I think the best part of this story had to be the setting, at least in the beginning with the rural Welsh village and also on the Welsh cliffs. It was nice to have that as a change of pace, and really obviously added to the atmosphere of the story, where it's a bit of a creepy thing. I mean, villagers are, and they have been throughout Doctor Who. I think the earliest example's probably in The Demons, with a village that is surrounded by witchcraft and has actual witches in it. And then more modernly, maybe Countryside, where it's an idea of, if this place is so isolated and alone, that's what makes it scary. And I love the fact that Russell turns around this cliché into essentially a commentary on racism against Welsh people. And there's also a little bit of a reference there to why there's so many castles along the Welsh coastline, and it's because of English oppression. I mean, personally, I don't know the truth of this. Welsh history is not exactly my forte, and I doubt it was many people's watching. So it's nice to have some kind of insight into the Welsh perspective. To be fair, I was also kind of on that boat where, as soon as I saw, yes, it's a Welsh village, oh, they're going to know all about it. There'll be some kind of witchcraft in the area and all the stories. And they really fed into that, making it a really, really funny scene to see, where Ruby is essentially just being accused of being racist towards Welsh people. Brilliant. The villain itself is also quite interesting because I suppose in many ways the villain is Ruby. She's the one that broke the circle, she's the one that read the tapestries, so it's her fault that all of this is happening. She's the evil one. The entity that's following her, which never even gets an explanation, I suppose a bit like the creature in Midnight, we still don't really know what its intentions are, its motivations. Of course, at the end of the story it is revealed that the woman is in fact Ruby herself, trying to give herself a message, and I assumed that it was sign language through the way that the woman was using her hands. I mean, you'd think that in 80 years Ruby would have probably thought of this and then learned sign language to try and see what she was saying, because I assume she has 20/20 eyesight and can see at a good distance exactly what the woman is doing, just not what she looks like. But alas not. If I was to compare this story to anything, I'd probably, as you can see by the title, call it the modern-day Blink. It certainly felt that way in terms of it being Dr. Light focused on a singular female character trying to overcome some sort of threat. Except I suppose in this case there isn't really a threat, as the creature isn't following her. I mean, it obviously is, but it always stays at a distance. What was it the woman said? Semper distans? Something like that, in Latin. I'd also compare it, as many I know on Twitter have pointed out, I'd compare it greatly to The Curse of Clyde Langer, which is, if you don't know, a Sarah Jane Adventures story. It's honestly one of the best Sarah Jane Adventures stories, and despite it being a kid's show, it deals with some really mature themes, such as the breaking down of families in abusive households, homelessness, etc. It's honestly fantastic. But as a rundown for that story, Clyde Langer touches I think, Native American totem pole, and then gets a splinter, and that splinter causes everyone that says his name to turn against him and basically just hate him, doesn't want to speak to him, drives him away from his home, from Sarah Jane and his friends, and he has to go homeless and live among those people. Of course, in this situation, when it comes to Ruby, it's only if they talk to the woman, who people can, due to the perception filter, they can see but can't really perceive that she's there. That I didn't really buy, as when Ruby pointed out to the village folk that there's the woman out there, and in the morning, assumedly, they could also see that she's there, would the woman who owned the pub not be more questioning about the woman that hasn't moved throughout the entire night rather than Ruby herself? I don't know, it's such a strange thing. But I suppose when a stranger comes into your village and starts a whole load of trouble and turns one of your guests, one of your regulars, away from the pub, then it's not great, is it? It was also very nice to see the introduction of Unit yet again into the series, and it's obvious that this is teasing the spin-off that's going to be coming out, which, I mean, the rumours are that it's called The War Between Land and Sea, but after this, I don't know if this is meant to be a kind of prelude with all the references to land and sea, or whether this is a complete misunderstanding where it was just attributed to this story and it's not the spin-off. I really hope it isn't, because The War Between Land and Sea is a ridiculously long title and does not roll off the tongue in the slightest, but it would be good to see some Unit versus Silurians actions. So what did I not really like? Well, for starters, Ruby aging 20 years, so then it would be 2046. She doesn't look 40 in the slightest. No makeup has been done to make her look older. They just strapped a pair of glasses on her and sent her out there. Very strange decision. But then, of course, there's the then skip to another 40 years, where she's now 80. That was quite a bit better, though the issue I had with this was that the ending felt a little bit rushed. All of this, like a 13th Doctor story, was going on in the last 10 minutes, where it was like, okay, we need to wrap up, let's explain what's going on, explain who the woman is, and then solve the crisis. It was all done very, very quickly, even if it was quite a frightening image having the woman become Ruby as she dies. Thinking about it, this story really was quite dark as it went on. A bit like Curse of Clyde Langer, where everything is turned against Ruby, and then all of a sudden this politician shows up who wants to nuke the world. That bit I wasn't quite convinced on, as the Doctor only really off the cuff mentioned this, what was his name, Roger ap Gwilym? Something like that, something Welsh, son of Wales. But the Doctor only really mentioned him off the cuff. It wasn't meant to be, it didn't seem like it was meant to be a major plot point. And then all of a sudden this is Ruby's entire life mission, that she has to stop this guy from becoming the guy who nukes the world, and then stop herself from stepping into the fairy circle. But then isn't that timeline then undone, so that time still goes as normal? With the Doctor even mentioning Roger, it's just the lines after that change, and Ruby's recollection of her third time in Wales doesn't occur because, well, the timeline's been gone. So does anything actually change in 2046 or not? I'm honestly not too sure. I mean, overall, I'd have to say that I did thoroughly enjoy this story, seemingly more than the vast majority of people. I would describe it as the modern Blink because there hasn't really been anything like it in recent years. The closest is probably The Haunting of Villa Diodati in terms of its atmosphere, and maybe Sleep No More, but even then Sleep No More was absolute crap, whereas Blink, and this, by extension, isn't. In terms of next week's episode, I'm honestly not looking forward to it in the slightest. It looked to me like an episode of Black Mirror mixed with crappy CGI slugs, so I guess we'll see. We can't know until it happens. But anyway guys, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed watching, then make sure to leave a like and subscribe down below. And a bit of news, tomorrow I actually have another History Of video coming out, and it's on a section of Dalek history that I don't believe anyone has actually covered before. So if that interests you, then make sure to stay tuned and look out at 6 o'clock tomorrow. But anyway guys, as always, thanks for watching.